Years ago, we'd never be able to work in weather like this. Got some snow finally coming down in Minnesota. Let's bring this van in the shop and take a look at it. All right, welcome to the shop. How you doing? We're working on a little bit of I would like to say a different project, but lately all of them are different. We're a lot of new normals here. In this episode, we're going to be installing part of our Renogy system, actually. I know typically we are Team Victron, and we believe they're great products, but in this case, we are installing customer equipment here. So we got a Renogy Rover charge controller, the Renogy 3000 watt inverter. There's no charger. We're using DC for charging. And then, what else we got here? They got the Bluetooth for that guy. And we've got the one control monitoring system, which that'll be interesting to take a look at. That's kind of similar to the Victron color control. So we'll be installing all that, but first we got to take out what's already there. And let's take a look at what's on top, because you might be interested or, I don't know, disappointed like I was. I see two problems here. Problem number one, those are flexible panels, which they just don't work all that great long term. As you can see, those gray spots, or the gray squares, are supposed to be black. The reason why they're gray is that the plastic has oxidized and they just don't perform well long term. And you can see that the rack is over top of them. I would be surprised if they are getting much more than 10 to 15% output out of those. Yeah, so we're gonna take them off and we're gonna be putting on 200 watt. Well, there they are, there's two of them there. And I think I figured out what we're gonna do is rework this rack a little bit. These rails here, we're gonna reuse them. Currently they sit a little bit lower here, where there's and connected with some screws. We're gonna move those up a level and make some new holes right here for the panels, and then we'll sit them on top, and then they should sit flush with the rest of the rack, and then we're good to go. We'll put them crossways. We're gonna start at the front, I believe, on that. So let's get to it. All right, say it with me now. Friends don't let friends use flexible solar panels, okay? I'm not even, I'm kind of kidding, only like 10%. Like, I don't know how long these were on here, but they did not hold up well. Okay, now a lot of these it's so damaged because I had to pull it off, but it was adhered on with some sticky foam tape. Still working on getting that off. But not all these cracks were from me. As I was inspecting it more, some of these it's tough to see. There's a lot of cracks and just damage on these. I mean, if you're trying to put together like it has to be ultralight, then fine, use them. But if you want it to last more than a year or two, don't use these. Let's take a look at what we're doing on the roof here. I'm still working on cleaning up all that gunk that was on there. I have the rails of the racking system modified. This is using a Vantech rack, and it's pretty cool actually. It uses a T-slot style system, and what's cool about that is it's going to be able to use the same solar hardware that we use in residential solar racking, like Unirack, that sort of stuff. So I think we're going to end up using that hardware. And I ended up switching around how I'm gonna do this. We're gonna run the panels this way. So one this way and another one here. The reason why we're doing that is because then they can span both of these supports that I moved up. I had to drill new holes for those, just made a template. I think that'll work fine. But I wasn't gonna be able to get the rails to line up perfectly to run them crossways this way. So, if none of that makes sense, just keep watching and it'll totally make sense. I know you guys would be as impatient as I am, so here you go. This is roughly what it's gonna end up being looking like. It's just that simple. Way better. I'm gonna have 400 watts up here rather than that, well, 200, but really probably getting about 10 watts total. So I'll show you the hardware once I start getting it on there, but I gotta pull these off and then clean that up. And it's probably about time for dinner. It's getting darker out. I don't know if this shows up on camera, but it definitely shows up to my eye. Does anybody see some like yellowish hazing here and here? I've been trying to clean this up a little bit. I'm not quite done, but I have scrubbed right in the middle there. And I think the paint actually burned from the bottom of those panels. Because what happens is there's no air gap in there and they get so hot. They probably get to be, you know, in the middle of the summer, they could be 150, 160 degrees, you know, out there for a long time. I think it started to actually burn the paint a little bit. All right, back from dinner. I think we're gonna call our quits for tonight, but got these 400 watts of panels up here. We use some Unirac, see it there, Unirac hold down clamps for the edges. And then I used like a Unistrut style mid clamp on both sides. So these two panels are being held on by 6 clamps. And believe me, they're not going anywhere. Like, they're locked in there. A lot of people like to overthink it and do through-hole bolts and stuff. This is the way commercial stuff is done, or stuff on your houses. It's just hold-down clamps. It's super simple. It's aluminum. These frames are aluminum, so they're soft, and you use the aluminum clamps, and they kind of bite into each other, and as us dads like to say, it's just not going anywhere. So, all right, I think we're going to call that a night, but it's coming together, and we did get some of that cleaned up there a little bit too. All right, we are back at it here in the shop. I spent a long time getting that rack out. Oh, more than I'd like to say. Well, it just took a long time. Let's put it that way. Added some more furring strips in here, put some insulation behind it, and made a template for the board that's going to go here. Customer supplied that board. So we're ready to get that installed, or not installed, but start assembling it. Let's go take a look. Here is what I'm thinking. I was gonna have this down a little bit lower, but then I thought, you know, this might be a perfect place to slide the batteries. So I did a quick measurement on the batteries, and we're coming up a full foot. That should give plenty of room for the batteries to sit right here. So that means we're gonna have some cable raceway coming up here. And we're not going to do a links on this one. We're going to do a little bit more traditional, I think. Do bus bars. Let's move so you can actually see, understand what we're doing here a little bit more. So let's zoom in a little bit more. So here's what we're going to do. We got positive, negative bus bars. I put the negative closer, so that way it was just a quicker run to different things. And then did the positive over there, or maybe, I don't know. I'm not 100% on how these are going to end up working out just yet. But we're going to do the 250 breaker as our main breaker, then 60 and 60. 60 amps for this charge controller, and then the other 60 amps for a DC-DC charger that is in the mail. And I'm just going to leave a spot open for that, and we'll plug that in there at a later time and date. And then what do we got here? Solar breaker. That's going to come in, solar wires coming in. And so that is my plan there. And you may notice while we got our main breaker here, what I'm planning on doing is, but not a breaker for the inverter. So my thought behind that, and we've done this on these smaller systems before, where basically we keep the cabling size the same, and we do cabling size to fit inside this 250 amp envelope, which would be 2 watt. So we'll put 2 watt cable and lugs going to here, and this is going to serve as the main battery protect. And then we'll come right off of the bus bars into the inverter. and I'm not going to worry about protecting the inverter explicitly. The reason why is this is an inverter only. It is not a charger. It will never supply amps. It will only draw amps. So if there's a problem in this connection, this guy will blow because it will be in between itself and the batteries. I don't see a reason why I would need to double protect there. So that's the plan on that. Now, if this was an inverter charger, then yes, I would recommend having something to protect, because if the batteries are out of the system, it could still cause a problem. So that is my plan there. I was talking with JD a little bit about just the stress I'm feeling about how do we get everything working in here, right? And I'm taking his advice, and he said, well, just start working on some stuff. Just start doing some projects, and you get a feel for how to best set things up. And that's exactly the way I did it in the first shop. So that's what I'm gonna do here. And I appreciate you for sticking around and following along. And here you are in the middle of the video. What are we doing? Just chatting. All right, I'm gonna get back to work. I don't know about you. All right, as you can see, we're coming together. Most of this is secured down now. All these are secure. This is, I think, the layout I'm gonna go. I switched the bus bars around a little bit again, just for reasons. One thing I wanted to bring up was, if you do happen to work with one of these Renogy inverters, the way the fasteners are on here, let's see if we can zoom in on there. There we go. They want you to basically put that bolt down through that connector or the terminal. On this one, I switched it to coming up. The reason is this thing is actually threaded, and that way it works more like these, where you can land the lug on top of it and then screw down the bolt, or screw down the nut on the terminal and all that. I hate the ones where you got to hold it all together and try and get it snug. That's the worst. So I kind of converted this into something that's a little bit more sane. Okay, back in the van here with the Renogy system, and it's been a little bit. We were waiting for the DC charger to come in, and we were planning on the one that looks a lot like that, but Renogy ended up upgrading us to this Rego or Regio. I don't know what we're gonna call it exactly or how it's pronounced, but it looks like a nice unit. It's actually got CAN ports here for communication, but we're not going to be using those because nothing else is part of that system. Looks like an interesting ecosystem you could definitely look into. They have inverters and everything else to connect to it. So the interesting thing is they ship this with these Anderson style connectors, but obviously the leads weren't long enough to get to the alternator. So I ran my own lines there previously on this board. And so we just spliced in that, and I'm going to put some heat shrink tubing over that and then connect those in. And the other leads should be able to make where we need them to get to on this side without a problem. So I shouldn't have to do any splicing there. And then we'll talk about what we're going to do with the batteries here in a little bit. So we'll check back in. We have the DC charger installed, and also the Renogy One control, or I think core control. We just did the update, and now we got to pair it with an app, so we're going to go ahead and do that here in a minute, but it's coming together. I think next we're going to put the batteries in there. And the thing with the Renogy One monitor and the core controller is you got to have it all communicates via Bluetooth, so you have to use their batteries, which is not the end of the world because they are reasonably priced, but it is a little tricky. And we are going to be keeping the AGM battery in there as well. And if that's sounded a little silly to you, check out our channel. We've done some tests where we run AGM and lithium in parallel together, and it works just fine, especially where this van is going to be. We're in Minnesota, and while it is warm right now, it is not always warm. And if it's 20, 30 below or something, and this would need to be used, this is the battery that's going to work no matter what. Even though the lithium batteries that Renogy makes now are heated and all that stuff, they're not going to be heated if power's not going into them. So this is kind of like a fail-safe stopgap. So no matter what, the system will work until the lithium batteries come online. So anyway, that's what we got coming up. got everything about as wrapped up as we can, and we don't have the best news, but we do have good news. So we got the one monitor going. It does connect with this Renogy Rego, we're going to call it. DC-DC charger, tested that working. It does also connect with the Rover MPPT charger just fine. However, the core batteries, it does not, because as it turns out, there's not Bluetooth in them. And I was pretty sure because they were core batteries that they would connect, and I wasn't initially worried that there wasn't a Bluetooth option on it, because I figured, well, there maybe was some sort of proprietary communication protocol. And maybe there still is, so if somebody knows, feel free to let me know on that. All right, so here we are on this project, the Renogy project, and we made a move. Turns out these core batteries are not compatible with the core monitor. Renogy, I really think you need to do something about that branding. We can't be the first people that made that mistake. This was sold as a kit from Renogy, but it was not necessarily all compatible. So I don't know. I think if it's got the core name on it, it should work with the core battery monitor. But that being said, we made it work for this customer. We did have a Victron monitor in stock, so we installed that, and I have the raceway exposed here because we just put it in line with the negative to the battery, and we got all the batteries hooked up, and now we're in good shape. I think we're about ready to pull it out and make sure everything works. We've already verified that the alternator works, and we've already verified the solar works, but just really kind of seeing how it all works together. So that's about all we got here. Now it's just time to test it. All right, everything's working good. Pulling in about 500 watts total between the alternator and the solar. Pretty thrilled with that. So from all of us here at Soda Solar, if you need help on your van, bus, ice house, RV, whatever you got, give us a call. Send us a text, email, sotasolar.com, SOTASOLAR.com. Catch you guys later. Bye.